here. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 different, specific, advanced sales tips you can start using right now. These sales tips will work for pretty much any selling that you do. If it's face-to-face, if it's over a phone, it could be for small items, it could be for large contracts, it can be for products or services. Whatever you're selling, it doesn't matter what it is, you will be able to apply each of these 6 different advanced sales tips in your business, in your company, in your career right now. You should notice an increase in sales, you should notice smoother conversations and interactions with customers, and ultimately you should be able to make more money. One of the great things about learning these sales tips is once you know them, you can use them pretty much forever in different businesses. I've had different sales businesses where I've been 100% commission. I've sold cars, I've sold cell phones, I've sold stuff door to door. I've started my own businesses that included me selling, and a couple of those businesses I got to over 6 figures a year in profit simply from selling. So what's nice about this is as long as you hang out with me for a few minutes and you pay attention and understand and really digest these 6 advanced sales tips, you will literally be able to use them for the rest of your life in pretty much every selling situation that you do. Some of this stuff I've gotten from Tom Hopkins. The first one I'm going to share with you comes straight from Jordan Belfort's program. I went through his $2,000 program that he has. It's all fantastic stuff. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first thing we have to understand in selling, tip number 1, is selling is a sales process. I learned this in Jordan Belfort's program and when I was doing car sales, is that it's a process. So when the customer comes in, let's say the customer, wherever you make first contact with the customer, let's say they start off right here. There is a series of actions, there is a series of steps you need to do from you meeting the customer to moving the customer towards the end where the customer ultimately gives you money for your product or service. It's called like a line. Think of it as a line. It starts off right here and it ends right here. And there's a series of steps you need to go through with the customer. So in the car business, it would be the customer would come on the car lot or they would call the dealership and we would pick up. And then we tried to get them in the car lot. Once we get them in the car lot, we would introduce ourselves, and we would bring them to our desk. Once we have them at the desk, which is the next step, we'd figure out what they're looking for, right? What are they looking for? We'd ask them a series of questions. What are you looking for? Do you have a certain budget in mind? Are there certain things you're not looking for? Because some people, they got a gazillion dollars. They don't really care about the price, and they want, a large pickup truck that's lifted off the ground that has all the bells and whistles, and they're going to pay cash. They're going to finance it. They don't really care about any of that stuff. Some people come in and they're kind of on a budget and they're looking for something economical. They're looking for something with good gas mileage. It's probably just going to be them driving it. They don't really need a lot of space. They're just going to take it to and from work. Some people, they're going to be going out partying with their friends. They move a lot of stuff around, so they need a big back seat. Some people are looking for something new. People are looking for something used. So there's usually a discovery phase in this process where you're asking questions to figure out what the customer wants. When I used to work at AT&T and they'd come in, what are they looking for? Do they have a certain preference from iPhones or Samsungs? Or do they not really care about that stuff? If they're moving over from Sprint, what are some things they don't like about Sprint? I want to get that information so I can critique the rest of the sales process to what they don't. Well, we don't like the fact that we lose signal, and we don't like the fact that our bill's very high, and we don't like the fact that when we're at our house, we actually can't even get on internet, and we have to use Wi-Fi. So one of the things, once they tell me that, when I go to the next step, and showing the customer, giving the customer, kind of showing the customer our product, I might pull up a map of coverage in their area and see, and one of the things you'll love about us is we get complete signal where you're at. Now, if you go 5 miles out this way to the train rail, we actually lose signal. But where you're at, you get complete coverage, so you have peace of mind. You don't have to connect to the internet. You'll be able to make calls, send texts, do all that good stuff where you're at there. So, taking a step back, we're asking questions. Then we're presenting the product and service that we have, right? If it's a product, we're going to probably tell them about the product, show them the product. If it's a car, we're going to get them to drive the car. If it was a phone, sometimes I take the customer over and show them the phone, put the phone in their hand, let them see it. That's important. Then we get to kind of working out the terms. Then we get to then we're trying to go for the close. Then we might have to overcome some objections or concerns. Then we might work out terms, and then we finally go to the close and deliver it. So, my sales trainer at the car dealership, who was just the manager there, and Jordan Belfort all talk about the straight line. There's a line, and what you want to do is figure out in your business or in your for the company you have or the product or service you're selling, what's the process that the customer is going to go through from them being contacted to you moving them all the way to the close. It might be that they respond to an email and they fill out a survey, and then you get them on a phone, and on the phone you ask them some questions and you allow there to be silence and you overcome any objections. So it could be a little different depending on the product or service that you have, but there's always going to be a straight line where the customer starts up here, ultimately they end up here. And it's our job as phone flipping professionals to, as quickly and effectively as we can, move them from here all the way through towards the end without stopping, without getting off track, because sometimes, you'll have a salesperson, they don't know what the heck they're doing, and they get right here, and all of a sudden they start talking to the customer about what's the customer want, or the customer's family, where the customer's traveled, because they're trying to build some rapport, not understanding that comfort and professionalism builds rapport in and of itself. And then, 2 hours later, they're talking about a hockey trick they went on, and, the sales process is slowed down, and the sales professional thinks that, they're building this rapport, but really they make it seem like they don't know what they're doing, because ultimately the customer, even though the customer can making small talk with you, is there to solve a problem or enhance the quality of their life with a product or service, or enhance their business in some way. And really, customer doesn't want to talk to you about fucking 8 hours about the golf trip. They want to, have a good experience with you, but ultimately they want to go there to accomplish their goal, to get the machine they need for their business, or to buy the phone, or see if they're going to buy your car or not. Because the customer probably would prefer to hang out with their friends, family, watch Netflix, chill, have a good life, do things they want to do, instead of sitting in your office for fucking 8 hours talking about a bunch of bullshit. You guys see that? So we're going to move them through the sales process. So the first tip I would share with you guys is understand that process. Think about, how can I apply it? How can you apply it with the selling that you're doing now? And what are the steps you need to do to kind of move the customer from their first point of contact all the way to the close. Number 2 is we're going to ask questions. Very, very, very big. We always want to be asking questions in the sales process. We want to be asking questions. Why do we want to be asking questions? Because questions allow us to uncover what the customer wants, what they're looking for, without us talking a whole lot. A lot of times there's certain products or services that might have, 100 benefits. So if think about something you've sold before, there might be 50 or 100 benefits. A lot of times the customer only cares about 1 or 2 or 3 of them. When I joined Planet Fitness, the reason I joined Planet Fitness is I wanted a gym that was open 24 hours. Because one of the gyms, there's been gyms I've gone to before where they're nice gyms, but they close around 11 or 10 at night. Sometimes even earlier. Sometimes as early as like 6 at night. And I didn't have time to get there to work out, so I wanted a gym where I could work out. So when the person's taking me around Planet Fitness, they could be saying, we got the tanning beds here, and they actually have really nice tanning beds. They got the tanning beds here, and they got the massage thing here, and they got showers and locker rooms and all this stuff, and they have, Pizza Friday or Taco Tuesday or Bagel Monday. I think you can get some free food, which is great. I think that's fantastic, right? I don't care about any of that shit. All I wanted was a gym that's open 24 hours so I can go there and work out if the other gym I go to is closed. I don't even necessarily, I sometimes like free weight, even though Planet Fitness is pretty nice. But I like a lot of free weights, so I didn't even necessarily like Planet Fitness that much, because sometimes I wanted free weights that I could use, and they didn't have a lot of it. But they still have a fair amount of good stuff. They got a lot of machines. They do have a fair amount of weights. So it's like I was okay with just that. So when the person's over there trying to sell that thing to me, if they ask, why are you interested in Planet Fitness? What brings you in here today? Just ask questions. That way you can uncover information, and the information the customer tells you, you can then tweak the rest of your presentation to specifically to the customer and making it custom to the customer. I used to sell a UVerse at, I used to sell DirecTV at AT&T. So some people, DirecTV had all these benefits, right? You get a cheaper price, and you get HBO, and you can record I think it was 5 or 6 different shows at once on one TV and play it back to any other TV. So some people, they would say, oh, what I currently use now, I can only record 3 TV shows at once, and whatever TV I record it on, I can't play it back to the other TVs. Can you really record up to 5 and play it back on other TVs? Absolutely, ma'am. Any TV, you can record up to 5 TV shows at once and play it back on any TV in the house. Sometimes that was enough to sell them. But by asking questions, you uncover what the customer wants, and then the rest of your sales process, you can tweak it to the customer. You want to have a sales process. You want to have a process that moves the customer from here, where were we at before? Here, oh, I forget which way we went, but moves them through the straight line. But you're going to slightly adjust what you do in the process to tailor it to the customer. This customer cares about the 5 TVs. This customer just cares about the fact that they can watch Game of Thrones and that they can get HBO. A few years ago, right, when Game of Thrones was really cranking. So I would just talk about Game of Thrones, right? So that's what we want to do. Number 2 is we want to ask questions. And the reason we want to ask questions is a lot of salespeople talk too much. Asking questions allows us to uncover what is it that the customer wants. What is it that the customer is looking for? And we can then proceed with the rest of our presentation as we're presenting our product or service. And really, we're gonna make a point to really shine light on and talk about the specific things the customer told us that wasn't important to them. Number 3, we want to say the minimum needed. Oh, this is very big. A lot of salespeople, they talk too much. They just talk too much. It's the biggest thing I've seen. Well, there's a bunch of issues I've seen. But one of them is salespeople, they just talk too much. When I used to work at AT&T, I would be in and out with customers really quick. And they pretty much I'm selling them stuff left and right. So maybe my average time with the customer is maybe 15 minutes on average. A lot of other reps, their average time might be 30, 40 minutes. Why is that? That's because they're talking too much. They're not asking questions. They're saying stuff the customer doesn't care about. They're messing up step number 5, which we're going to talk about in a sec. I want to say the minimum needed. Sometimes you got to say a decent amount, and sometimes you might be talking for a minute or 2 and really presenting the product or service you have. But once you've said what's needed to be said, we're going to shut up. We're going to shut up, and we're not going to say anything else. And the reason we do this, which leads to the next step, is you want to allow there to be silence. Silence is important. Silence does a couple things. The first thing silence does is it allows the customer to think. It allows the customer to digest what you said. If we, as a sales professional, talk for fucking 10 minutes, customer's probably not going to digest what we say. We want to say what we need to say, ask some questions, but then allow there to be silence. Allow the customer time to go into their brain and really digest and analyze what you said. Allow the customer time to where if they have questions about something you said, allow the silence to be there for the customer to bring those up so you can address them, so the customer has peace of mind about what you answered, so then they're more likely to buy at the end. This goes into step number 5. So, part of the sales process is almost always overcoming objections or areas of concern. There's usually going to be times where customers, they might have questions about the product. It's not necessarily an objection, but there's also times where the customers do have an objection. This is too much. I'm going to look for somewhere else. I'm going to look somewhere cheaper. This sounds good. Let me talk to my husband. This all sounds good. Let me think about it for a day or 2 and I'll call you back. The salesperson doesn't know what the heck they're doing yet, doesn't like objections. So one of the things they try to do is they try to talk a whole bunch. They don't shut up. They try to talk a whole bunch so the customer can't ask the objections or thoughts they have in their head. I've seen this when I was working at AT&T, where The customer had concerns, but the salesperson didn't want the customer to ask the concerns, they asked the objections, so the salesperson just kept talking, hoping that the customer would just kind of forget about the questions or just not ask the questions. Horrible, worst thing you could do. The sales professional has spent time learning the art of selling, which includes learning how to overcome objections, learning the process for isolating, overcoming, and handling objections. So as the intermediate or the beginner salesperson tries to talk a whole bunch so the customer doesn't ask objections, the professional salesperson understands that the objections are part of the sales process. They welcome the objections because they know that they're probably going to have to overcome 1, 2, 3, maybe a handful of objections before they make the sale. But because the professional phone flipper has studied sales, has studied objection handling, understands the importance of it and the process of it, they don't get nervous about objections. They don't get uncomfortable handling objections. In fact, they welcome it. Because they know the faster they can actually get to the objection, not the faster, but once they get to the objection, they allow the customer to ask the objections, they handle the objections because they've studied their craft, they know how to handle it, and now once the objections are handled, they can now get to the next step, which is the close. Very, very, very powerful. Step number 6 is be okay being uncomfortable. There's been lots of times when I got started selling where I was going through Tom Hopkins stuff, I've gone through Grant Cardone stuff, I've gone through other sales stuff, Jordan Belfort stuff, and there were things that made me uncomfortable. Asking specific questions actually made me uncomfortable, right? Asking for the order made me uncomfortable. In the card business, we were taught that you ask 3 tie-down questions. I got a video about that in the Tom Hopkins video. You can check it out on my channel. But I remember asking these questions or reading about it, and these questions made me uncomfortable. Because I wasn't used to talking like that. And then the sales manager said, you're going to ask 3 tie-down questions, and then you're going to say, so, if everything works out, we can get the numbers to work out correctly and the terms where you're completely comfortable, will you take this car home today? That's a very direct question. I was very nervous asking that question. After I asked it a bunch of times, though, I got more and more comfortable. With AT&T, one of the things they had us try to sell with AT&T was a security system. And what we were told to do is we were taught to, in the sales process, the customer comes in for a phone, we sell them a phone, but ultimately we want to take them over, we want to get them to stand up and take them all the way over to the display of the security thing. So I remember in the beginning, I'm nervous as all get up doing this. And I remember, I'm nervous, I'm probably sweating, my voice is probably shaking. So I remember one time I'm sitting with a family of like 6, and in my head I'm like, damn, I need to move these people over here, because it's what I'm supposed to do. It's also a big ticket item. I want to make the money from it. Shit, I'm really nervous. So I said, all right guys, so stand up with me, we're going to go over here, we're going to take a little vacation, I got something I want to show you. I'm all nervous doing it. And the first few times I did it, I messed it up because I'm shaking, I'm nervous, you can tell my voice is cracking. The more times I did it though, the more comfortable I got with it. To where I could do it very smoothly with real strong confidence. And the more I did it, the more I got out of my head and I was able to pay attention to the customer. Feel the customer. What are they thinking? See if something made them uncomfortable. Start to ask them questions. Start to listen to them and actually understand what they were saying. And then I started getting really good at selling these higher end items AT&T has. So the final tip I would share with you guys is, if you're not uncomfortable doing something, do it anyway. A lot of times when you do it anyway, over and over and over and over again, you may find that in the future you get more and more comfortable doing it, because it just becomes something you used to be uncomfortable with it, but now it's something you're not comfortable doing. So that would be my final tip. So with that said, let's recap all 6 tips and we will get going. Number 1, the straight line. So the customer's going to start off here, customer's starting off here, and there's a series of steps we need to take to get them to close. Figure out what those are so you can figure out which step you are in, and you can figure out what's the most effective thing you can do to get them to the next step. This will allow you to close more people and you don't get caught up spending, gazillion hours with customers. Number 2, ask questions. You're going to ask questions. All great sales professionals ask questions, and you're going to use the information the customer shares with you to present the product or service you have and highlight the things and talk a little bit more about the things the customer said was important to them. Number 3, say the minimum needed. We're going to say what's needed to be said, and then we're going to move on to step 4, which is silence. Allow the customer silence and the ability to think in their head. And as they're thinking, they might have certain questions. You want to allow those questions to come up so you can address those questions or concerns or objections. Sometimes they're just questions, sometimes they're hard objections. Address them, because it's only once you've addressed the objections that you can move on to the final thing and close them. So we want to be good at overcoming objections, and we want to be okay being uncomfortable. It is okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable, but you should do it anyway, right? You're a little uncomfortable asking the questions. You're a little uncomfortable moving these customers around. That's okay. Do it anyway. Do it anyway, and over time, I think you will find that you get more and more comfortable with the process. So that's what I got for you guys. My name is Aaron Goldsten. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments. I love, feedback. I love hearing people's feedback. And if you like this video, of course, feel free to check out my channel, because I do have other videos on my channel where I talk about different money-making stuff, business stuff. My channel is all about different strategies and tactics, whether it's sales, whether it's mindset, whether it's time management, whether it's just understanding some of the principles that successful people do or rich people do, and I want to share it with you guys. I've been on a journey for the last 12 years of trying to figure out how to make a lot of money, and my goal is to take a lot of the knowledge I've learned and some of the lessons that I've learned that were painful, share it with you guys so you guys can kind of skip the learning curve and go out there and start winning and succeeding. So feel free to check out my other videos of the channel, but only if you got value from this video. Only if you got value from this video and you think that maybe watching some other videos from me might be beneficial to you as well. My name is Aaron Goldsten. You have a fantastic day.